We first try to hear from customers what do they want, what is their need, what are their pain points, and based on that, we help them, kind of facilitate the conversation either towards ServiceNow or Atlassian, right? But I would say all these different products should work very well integrated in an integrated fashion. That's one thing I would say they should focus on. I know that's very technical, but overall, their theme about teamwork, they should just keep working towards it. I think that's going to be the key, not just now, but even in the future, where AI is being implemented everywhere and people are working in their silo, more or less. So, how can you build that teamwork without being in person in a meeting? That one thing I would say that Atlassian should continue focusing on.
Is there anything in particular that they were seeking, maybe outside of ServiceNow, that Jira had?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was the time to deliver, right? So
Mhm.
ServiceNow, great platform, no complaints on that, right? Functionality-wise, it can do a lot of things. The biggest challenge to some of these customers was speed to deliver.
We've actually worked on quite a bit of projects together in the past with ANB Technologies. And I know that Harjinder has a lot of experience with ServiceNow in the past as well. But I'd love to hear, Harjinder, maybe how you got started at Atlassian, maybe introduce yourself, speak a little bit about your background and your previous experiences.
Well, first of all, thank you, Josh, for inviting me to this podcast. Very happy to be here. For the audience, I'm Harjinder Singh. I'm from ANB Technologies. Before starting ANB Technologies, just to give you some background, I had uh, great experience in a big four working on the service management space and not just service, now a lot of different products. And also learning about service management operations, right? Before talking about farm. And then about 4 or 5 years back, I decided to start my own entrepreneurship journey, and that's when the ANB Technologies was born. It was started with a very ServiceNow focused company, consulting company, but then gradually we saw kind of the voice of the customer, where people were looking for different alternatives from functionality, implementation time, cost efficiency perspective. And that's when we looked at different products, and we decided that Atlassian had made great investment and improvement in their Jira Service Desk, and that kind of used to be called Jira Service Desk. And after evaluating all the different tools, we thought Jira Service Management will be a right fit for us to jump into that market as well. And that's how we started the journey for Atlassian. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You mentioned that a lot of customers or clients were asking for functionality, pricing. Is there anything in particular that they were seeking, maybe outside of ServiceNow, that Jira had?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was the time to deliver, right? So
Mhm.
ServiceNow, great platform, no complaints on that, right? Functionality-wise, it can do a lot of things. The biggest challenge to some of these customers was speed to deliver. How soon they wanted the functionality, but it took a lot of time for developers to build it, test it, roll it out, etc. Whereas in Jira Service Management, as you would know better than me, the configurations or development doesn't take that much time, right?
Mhm.
Um, it Some of the things are pretty much out of box. Obviously, you can build on top of it, but the point being, the value realization is way faster in Atlassian Jira Service Management than ServiceNow, right? That to me was the biggest one, and then obviously licensing cost. In reality, it's also ServiceNow is pretty expensive. There's a great market for ServiceNow for those larger enterprise customers who they don't have economic burden or something. So they still rely on ServiceNow, and we do help customers on those type of customers choosing ServiceNow. Right? We're
Mhm.
pretty much tool agnostic. When we meet with the customers, our answer is not choose Atlassian or ServiceNow. We first try to hear from customers what do they want, what is their need, what are their pain points, And based on that, we help them, kind of facilitate the conversation either towards ServiceNow or Atlassian, right? Well, both platforms are great, and there's a place for each one of them in their own area.
Right. So time to deliver is quite a bit shorter with Atlassian and Jira. I know that based on previous projects in the past, that might be maybe 2 to 6 months, depending on the scale of the project, the team. In ServiceNow, what does that time frame typically look like?
In ServiceNow, again, there is no one size fit all. A typical base, let's say, incident, problem, change, ITSM project would require at least 2 to 3 months minimum. Whereas if you're looking just incident, problem, change type work in JSM, you could do it in a month, right? It's pretty straightforward. Now, make it a little bit more complex where you want to do CMDB and discovery. Now the timeline of service now is going to be sometime between 4 to 6 months, right? Again, in JSM, it's pretty straightforward. It would be half of the time that service takes, right?
Mhm.
Again, a lot of it also depends to how complex or how large the organization is. Do they have the processes defined? Do they have the appetite for a complex work engine like ServiceNow, or do they want just basic stuff, right? There's a lot of factors. There is no one size fit all, but it typically, based on our experience, uh, you could you would say on average, ServiceNow implementation takes 3 to 6 months,
Mhm.
whereas for Jira Service Management, you could wrap it up in 3 months for basic ideas, right?
Mhm. Okay. And you mentioned that you're primarily focusing on like the tool agnostic, so you'll work with either platform. Let's say that I'm a company, I'm either migrating or looking to implement a some kind of a solution, and I would come to you. What would I have to say in order for you to push me towards ServiceNow rather than Jira?
So, so, so if you're already using ServiceNow, is that what you're saying, or
Either I'm already using it, or maybe I'm implementing a new service management platform, and I'm looking at both options. When would you steer me towards ServiceNow rather than Jira?
that's a great question. So first, I would understand from functionality standpoint, what are you looking, right? Let's not even talk about the cost. So that will be the first thing, right? How soon you want, right? And obviously the last will be the cost, right? So based on these 3, 4 factors, we'll drive them towards ServiceNow or Atlassian. I'll give you a simple example. If the uh, if the customer wants, let's say, ITSM plus they want HR onboarding and offboarding, integration with a lot of other platforms out of the box. They want seamless employee experience. And they also want this platform in the future to be customer service management, supporting thousands and thousands of agents with complex workflows, right? Then I may lean towards ServiceNow. Not that Atlassian cannot do it, but for large enterprises, it may be the right fit in combination with the cost factor if they have the budget for it, right? If they have a budget constraint plus they are looking faster delivery, I would go with Atlassian Jira Service Management, right? Both can fit into both scenarios. Ultimately it may come to complex configuration and time to deliver and when, right? These 3 factors will always going to be there. Yeah. If a
Mhm.
customer is already using ServiceNow, typically the use case is, okay, we bought it for ITSM Pro and Discovery and hardware asset management, but we're not even using all that. And we are paying, again, I'm just making it a number, and we are paying $1 million in licensing. That's an easy migration use case to Jira Service Management. You can do all that with typically 20% of the cost, right? So that's a huge value save. And it's not your when you move to Jira Service Management, it's not that you're losing any future functionality. You have that capability, right? It has pretty much similar features as ServiceNow has, and you're paying less cost. So, yeah.
From your perspective, do you think ServiceNow is maybe going away slowly and Jira is kind of taking that market share, or is there still kind of a place for both and you don't think that ServiceNow will go away anytime soon? Because I know that at Team 24, they were really playing into that, get rid of your bad service management, and they were kind of poking the bear at ServiceNow. So I'm just curious to see your thoughts and, from A&B's perspective with working with both platforms, if ServiceNow might be going away gradually.
I won't say service not going anywhere, right? So there's a market for both. I think both can have their own uh, space in this area. I do in Team 24, whatever messaging you saw, everyone does it, right? Service now did that for really 7, 8 years back, right? And now whoever is the newcomer, they always do that. And I feel competition is good for the customer. So if Atlassian and ServiceNow are competing, they will compete to provide better features for the customer, cost-efficient solution for the customer. So ultimately, the winner is customer, and that's who we ultimately care about, right? So that's one thing. Now, back to the question around, do you think ServiceNow is going away? No. ServiceNow, when it comes to one thing that ServiceNow has done a great job is not just from service management standpoint, but their product is also becoming very industry specific solutions. They have solutions around financial industry, telecom industry. So on top of service management, they're taking it to the next level where it's becoming very well integrated with other, I would say, business operations. So ServiceNow is taking the game to the next level, actually. Whereas Atlassian Jira Service Management is doing great things in typical enterprise service management side, where you need ITSM, HR service management, procurement service management. So actually, it's a great timing. There's a recent Forrester report that came out, and they mentioned two leaders in the market, and one is ServiceNow, and the other is Atlassian. All the others will be gone. That's my thinking, and that's what I'm the prediction, but that's the report from Forrester, that the two key leaders that are gonna go in the next that are gonna lead the market in the next few years are gonna be Atlassian and the ServiceNow, right? It's not one we're gonna take over everything. No, and the good thing, like I said, everyone has a place depending on the customer. Atlassian Jira Service Management is one thing I love about it is the integration that it builds with different teams. So 99% of the organization, they're already using Jira software or Confluence or some other things from a Atlassian perspective. Now, bring in Jira Service Management, seamlessly integrate. Now your DevOps team, Agile team, and engineering team and developers, they are working with the support team all in one platform without building any custom integration, right? So the companies that are looking for faster development, DevOps, team culture, one team culture, they are definitely moving towards Atlassian.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, from my perspective, it seems, at least for me, like Atlassian's kind of taken some of that market share, and some of the features that they're rolling out are kind of to be able to provide a solution that ServiceNow provides, and there's some overlap. I'm not in the ServiceNow world as much as you are, obviously, but from my perspective, I think most companies, at least the smaller ones, maybe not super enterprise level, seem to be gravitating towards JSM and slowly going towards that direction. Even migrations from ServiceNow to Jira. Most of those have been smaller teams, from what I've noticed. But do you think that there's some time in the future, if Jira rolls out the right set of features, if they implement the right solutions to where those enterprise teams could have all the functionality of ServiceNow and Jira? Is there ever a world where that might happen?
We cannot say no. Yeah, it may happen, and it's coming up, right? The recent launch of so many new features around Gen AI, chatbot, virtual agent, the raw functionality. This is all super cool stuff, and it's going up the enterprise level. Um, what I have seen is people are taking it, especially even large enterprises, are taking Atlassian very seriously. So when it comes to renewal of, let's say, service or contract or whatever they're using, Remedy, etc., Atlassian Jira Service Management is one of the top contender while they are evaluating their renewal, right? So let's say they're on service now and the contract is coming up for renewal. they'll typically choose top three vendors and evaluate the functionality, cost, etc. And Atlassian is typically there. So they are giving that consideration. Obviously, moving from one platform to the other, it's not just a tool migration, it's a transformation. The team needs to learn new platform. There's migration that needs to happen, including data, processes needs to be moved. So it's not a small initiative for a customer to do it. Uh, Even though it may match the functionality, even though you will save money on the licensing, but you also need to consider the migration itself. There will be one-time cost, right? So keeping all these dynamics, people are considering Atlassian very seriously. And there are customers, you and I worked on a project, right? So they moved from ServiceNow to JSM. They're I would say a large enterprise, right? Global company, and they were looking to migrate about 9 or 10 processes from ServiceNow to Jira Service Management. And it's not easy, and they made the move. Yeah.
I'd love to chat about Access Audit Pro as well, which is a new app that ANB's developed, maybe some of the functionality and use case behind it. The reason I kind of love this is because it fits into the podcast name Atlassian Everything. And the idea behind that is that, Atlassian is just such a flexible tool that we can do things that maybe weren't even initially intended to be done in Jira and Confluence, and all the tools of the Atlassian suite, but we can create that functionality with automation, with third-party extensions. So I'd love to hear about Access Audit Pro and what it's capable and its use case.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we believe we have in our marketing, we use the term service management for all. It's kind of same thing like what you said, Atlassian and everything, right? You could use Jira. That's one great thing about Atlassian Jira Service Management, that you don't need to buy separate licensing to build different functionality. So let's say you have 1,000 licenses, and that's the difference in ServiceNow. Let's say you pay an ITSM licenses in ServiceNow, you're going to just use that. You want to use HR application, you're going to buy separate licenses. You want to use just separate license. In JSM, if you have 1,000 licenses, we could use the same licenses for managing your IT, HR, procurement, any type of operations, right? So that's one good thing from licensing and platform perspective. Now, taking a segue from that, where it's meant for all teams, what we've been hearing from again customers is they have these applications, they have this infrastructure information in their asset management or CMDB in JSM, and periodically they need to do audit into who has access to a given server, who has access to a given application, who has access to a given SaaS application, right? And based on SOX or PCI or HIPAA, these audits needs to happen every quarter depending on the regulation. And believe it or not, most of these organizations, they do that on Excel file, right? So we said, okay, yeah. And we are a big believer in hashtag kill Excel. So, how can we digitize and automate these enterprise processes? So that's why we thought about building a marketplace app in Atlassian's marketplace, and it's called Access Audit Pro. What it does is it provides a CISO or an auditor or an app owner a nice interface that leverages JSM asset management functionality and all the other cool functionality to show them an interface into which app they own. And if they are doing an audit of, let's say, they own SAP application, right? We're going to show them all the different users who are accessing that application based on their roles. And then it gives them an interface to do an audit to say, okay, this needs to be remove the access for this user, you want to keep the access, and eventually you could export that report and give it to your external or internal auditor as a proof that you did the audit and now your access is kind of done at that stage, right? So we are leveraging the whole Jira Service Management functionality for that app. It's available in the marketplace. We launched it in Team 24. There are some of the customers are really happy using that app, and we will probably share the link to some of your podcast audience.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think from an enterprise perspective, if someone is really using an Excel spreadsheet to track all of this, this is probably a much more efficient tool that will save you hours and hours of time and hours of labor from your team. So it's a really cool implementation. And again, kind of like I mentioned, Atlassian everything is the general idea, and replace all of your tools with the Atlassian suite. That's the goal. Hopefully, Atlassian keeps acquiring more companies like Loom and others that help us do that one step at a time.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys use Loom internally at your company?
Yeah, grid.io, I use it probably 3 to 4 times a day minimum. Sometimes I'll send 10 looms a day. It's pretty common. I'm a very non-meeting kind of person, so I prefer to not take the meeting if it's not necessary. So I would just say, hey, send me a loom, or I'll send you a loom. And then if the loom doesn't cover everything, or if there's like a lot of follow-up questions, that's when a meeting is more required. But there are always scenarios where you can't really replace a meeting, requirements gathering, things like that. You can't just send a loom over for those kinds of things.
Yeah, it's a huge time saver, and I completely agree. We have started using it at least in the last 1 or 2 years. We've been heavy users of Loom, avoiding meeting wherever possible, and you can send your thoughts in a recorded fashion at your own time, right? You don't
Yeah.
need to meet a person at
Yeah,
the
I
same
was
time.
I was watching a Tim Ferriss podcast once, and he had I don't remember who the CEO was of a company, but relatively new tech startup, and the way that they mentioned they use Loom was like next level from even what we currently do. They pretty much document everything, so they'll document processes, procedures, how they do something internally. And they have like this huge knowledge base of Loom videos, basically. And that way,
Right.
if they're training new people, if they hire a new VA, if they bring in, someone new to complete a certain task, they're just going to have that Loom ready for them already. So they're big
Oh,
proponents of like, hey, just document what you do. If you're going to do it anyway, just start recording a Loom and do it. Maybe quick voiceover of what you're doing, and you're going to document it for pretty much everyone else if they ever need to replicate that specific thing that they're doing. So that's kind of what I've been trying to get to. It's obviously like a notch up from there, but I think it's a good step forward to utilizing the full capabilities of Loom and similar tools.
agreed. I love what you just said. We are hiring a couple of folks pretty soon. And technically, what we have is an onboarding training, Word doc, and this and that. The more I'm thinking about it, that can all be like a video that you can record. And, why do you want to read a document when somebody could, just do a AV kind of experience? Yeah, that's
Exactly.
great. Great use case.
Yeah, and I come from like a help desk background, so I did a lot of help desk when I was a few years back, and having written documentation is good, but a lot of people just they're just like, hey, just do it for me, or let's jump on a meeting, and I'm just like, why the documentation is there, but if you send them a video, that usually gets them to be able to just watch it, see exactly what you did, and
Mhm.
replicate. So it's a little bit easier than just reading a document and following along, at least for most people.
Yeah, and you don't. I think in Loom they give you a transcript and all that, so you're not replacing the doc. You
Hmm.
still have, if you want to read it, you could read it, but video kind of it's complementary, right? So
Yeah, and with the AI tools, they do like the AI title. It breaks it down to like chapters, which is really cool. That's been one of my favorite things, to where you just skip around where you need to. It's all done automatically. No effort from me. I just send the loom or receive the loom, and it's as simple as that.
yeah, yeah.
Speaking of service management and kind of Atlassian everything, I know that a lot of teams or a lot of companies would look at a service management tool, as something for IT teams or customer support teams, maybe even HR teams. Are there other teams or more creative use cases for a service management tool outside of those particular teams?
Yeah. So if you look at all the different business functions in any organization, whether it's HR, procurement, legal, customer support, you name it, any business function. At the end of the day, everyone is providing a service to somebody, right?
Hmm.
Even HR, right? Take an example of HR. People send them email that, hey, where is my direct deposit? I didn't receive it this month. Or how much is my annual leave left? Or, so there is the back and forth conversation has to happen because, different people are working in different departments. So I think the the there is no limit here. You could think of a department and you could literally digitize their services any platform for that matter, not just Atlassian, but any platform that can support enterprise service management model. You could go and kind of publish the services for that given business function and let the people consume it.
Hmm.
In Atlassian, we have obviously done ITSM, HR service management, procurement service management, legal service management, even DevOps service management, right? So uh, it typically reach out to these engineering and development teams regarding reporting their bugs, enhancements, product backlog, new features. They also need their own service management. So DevOps is becoming really popular nowadays from service management standpoint. Typically, they would rely on, in the traditional world, they would rely on ITSM to get the initial ticket and go from there. Now, why can't DevOps department or business unit have their own service management, their portfolio of services they offer, let the customer consume it, right?
Hmm. And what is maybe one really creative way that you've seen Atlassian used recently, like really creative implementation that, may not be out of box, but has been kind of built into Atlassian?
Um, from service management standpoint,
Could be anything. Confluence, service management, just product management.
I would say we did this project for a large enterprise, and one of the cool thing we did was we built JSM for external service managers, support, I would say, external customer support. Atlassian has the CSM functionality, but this was taking it to the next level where the customer will go to the JSM portal, and I'm talking external customers, right? Not even internal employees. And they are like global customers in mainland China, India, Europe, you name it, they have it. So going through the JSM portal, putting in their request or issue, leveraging AI to respond to those questions first, and then as the customer enters the data and the ticket or the request comes in, we have built integration with their CRM tool. And as you would imagine, it's a large enterprise. They could have multiple CRM tools, one for Europe, one for Asia and whatnot. And a lot of time it's because of the regulations. They want to combine data in one place. And that to me was super cool, where JSM was, it's such an open platform where you can build integration with a lot of different platforms. The support agent, they didn't have to log into 10 different platforms to understand what's going on, why they reported it. As soon as the customer raised the ticket, the agent, number one, it routed the ticket to the right team based on customer location of the product it's using, leveraging AI. And number two, to the agent, it gave all the information on the customer, who they are, not just their email, where they are located, the products they are using, the SLA they have for that given customer. All that information came from CRM directly, right? So to me, that was really cool. It was, they were on a different platform. I won't name it, but we migrated them to JSM. And now, you could feel like JSM is competing in the customer service management side, where typically Zendesk or other companies are more popular. But with that functionality, you could start using JSM pretty much for external facing customers as well. So to me, that was really cool, where we transformed kind of a business operation with platform like Jira Service Management. It was very creative, very good solution that customer loved it.
Yeah, that's pretty unique. I've done similar things natively with Jira, with like the asset manager, where we include, the companies that they work with, devices, products, but I haven't synced that from an external CRM, which is actually pretty interesting because a lot of larger organizations, even smaller organizations, will have a dedicated CRM like Salesforce or something similar, and having that info just pulled in automatically is actually pretty convenient for the people that are handling customer support.
Yeah, 100%. And you are able to get the data. If it is already
Mhm.
there, just pull in when you need it. Kind of a federated model, right?
Yeah. One more question. This is going to be more fun one. If you were CEO of Atlassian for one day, what would be one thing that you change about the Atlassian? It could be environment. It could be about Jira. It could be Confluence. It could be platform as a whole. just one change that you'd implement.
If I am the CEO at last. Okay. First of all, I'll give everyone 1 day vacation just to enjoy. That's fun. All the partners, all Atlassian team, everyone. On a serious note, if one thing I could change, that's a very good question. Um, I'll again, this is with probably every company. As they acquire more products, it typically takes some time to kind of bring everything together, right? So there are still certain areas where I feel different products could be more integrated, such as let's say Loom. It's still not there yet, right? They just acquired it a few months back, so I get that. But I would say all these different products should work very well integrated in an integrated fashion. That's one thing I would say they should focus on. I know that's very technical, but overall, their theme about teamwork, they should just keep working towards it. I think that's going to be the key, not just now, but even in the future, where AI is being implemented everywhere and people are working in their silo, more or less. So, how can you build that teamwork without being in person in a meeting? That one thing I would say that Atlassian should continue focusing on. And as a CEO, I would say just keep investing in that, keep bringing new technology and product in that sense.
Yeah, that's a great note, and I've actually heard something very similar with a couple of other podcast guests where they're acquiring, different platforms, different tools, and the integrations don't always keep up. So that's something I've actually heard a couple of times already, and I definitely agree with that. And hopefully they get to a point where you feel like you're just using one tool, but it's all these different things integrated. That's kind of the dream. I feel like there's other tools that want to do that, but can't quite get there. But with Atlassian, hopefully we'll have a future like that sometime soon.
Yeah. What are the other creative responses you have gotten for being 1 day CEO?
Yeah, so creative responses, I've heard quite a bit. Typically, it would be something like fixing a bug or implementing some kind of interesting solution. I haven't heard giving everyone a day off yet, so that was a first. But typically, I would phrase the question in a little bit different way, and I would ask, "What's one thing you would change about the Atlassian platform or the Jira platform?" And usually, I would get an answer of something that has been bugging them for the past couple of weeks or something recent. Like I've had a different answer for this, every podcast basically. Today, I would probably say I would focus on the speed of the tool. Jira and Confluence seem a little bit sluggish and slow coming from a tool like Notion or something similar. So
Mhm.
that's probably my biggest pet peeve right now, but it's been completely different just a few weeks back.
Got it. Got it. Very cool.
Yeah, thank you so much for jumping on, Harjinder. It's been great to have you on and hearing about your experience and your perspective on ServiceNow. It's been an honor to have you on the podcast, and hopefully we'll have you back soon.
Absolutely. And everyone who's listening to this podcast, first of all, thank you, Josh, for inviting me and thank you for listening me. And I would say if you ever need somebody who is super expert in Jira Service Management, don't forget to reach out to Josh. He's the guy.
Oh, well, thank you. And ANB is also a great solutions partner. So if you ever have a need that's very enterprise scale, Harjinder's the man to reach out to.